Hope wasn't the message, hope was the product. There is not a black America, a liberal America, and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. Vulnerability weaponized, made himself small in front of everyone else. He actually became larger. It is not politics, that is pure craft. 27th of July 2004. A state senator from Illinois that almost nobody in America had even heard of was standing backstage at the Democratic National Convention in Boston. He has 17 minutes at the podium. In 17 minutes from now, his life will be permanently different. And the speech that he is about to deliver will be studied in every communication class for the next 50 years. The reason it works is almost nothing to do with what he says and almost everything to do with one sentence buried in the middle of the speech that most people miss. I am Harsh. I've spent the last 8 years sitting across from clinic founders, surgeons, entrepreneurs. These were people building real businesses, and I was watching them try to communicate. The ones who win were not smarter than the ones who failed. They were just better at making people feel something. And the thing I noticed when I study how they succeed is that they're always unknowingly copying someone. Maybe a teacher, a coach, a speaker who figured out first. Obama figured it out. Not perfectly, not accidentally. He figured it out like a craftsman figures it out through study, failure, and relentless iteration. Today, we are breaking down how he does it. So, let's start with the rule that most people get wrong. Everyone wants to tell you Obama's gift was hope. That's the easy read. That's what the New York Times wrote. That's what people remember. They are wrong. Hope wasn't the message, hope was the product. His actual message, the thing that made 2008 work, the thing that made Boston 2004 work, was much darker and much more interesting. It was this: you're not alone in the story. And if you're not alone, then the story you are in is not exactly the story that you thought you were living. Now, listen to the actual sentence from the 2004 speech. I'm going to read it exactly as he speaks it. There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There is not a black America, a white America, a Latino America, an Asian America. There is the United States of America. And that sentence is not about politics anymore. It's about identity. It's telling you that the division that you believe exists, that's only real inside polling places and cable news. It's not real when you are actually in a room together. And if it's not real, then why are you behaving like it's real? That's a power move. That's not hope, that's architecture. Here's something that you can't realize. He didn't invent it. You can trace it back to the Gettysburg Address. That's the same move. Ancestral language, universal claims. It forces you to choose that are you on the side of the universal or the divisive? Obama studied this obsessively. He read Lincoln before he read manifestos, and what he understood was that the most powerful political move is not to describe a vision of the future. It is to describe a reality of the present that most people are too afraid to speak out aloud. Then, once it's spoken, it can never be unsaid. Now, let's talk about the V problem. I was coaching a 42-year-old plastic surgeon last year. He was a really sharp guy. He was trained in Stanford. He had hundreds of successful cases, but the Instagram content was dying. 1,200 followers. The pictures that were mostly before afters that he used to post was getting 46, 47 likes. And I watched one of his videos and I said, "Stop. You're doing it wrong." Every single video starts with you saying, "Hi, I'm Dr. XYZ Sharma, and today I want to show you dash dash dash." Now, you're centering on yourself. Nobody cares about you. They care about the transformation. So I told him to study the 2004 speech, especially the opening 90 seconds, because Obama does something there that most communicators never figured out. He says, "My father was from Kenya." Not "I am the son of a man from Kenya," not "I came from a mixed race family," but "my father was from Kenya." So he leads with a story that is not about him. And this is crucial. He immediately pulls you into a V story. My parents share not just a home, but a belief in the possibilities of the nation. In this country, all things are possible. In this country, you can write your own destiny. You, not Obama, you. Obama uses the word we 4.2 times more frequently than any other modern politician in equivalent speeches. Not I, we. And here's the craft beneath that we. We is a cage. Once he says we, you cannot disagree with what comes next because then you'll be excluding yourself from the group, right? It's not a rhetorical choice, it's a trap. So I told Dr. Sharma the same thing. Stop introducing yourself. Start with a patient story, not a case study, a story. Someone exactly like the people watching your videos. And then pull them into it. Don't say I fixed them. Say, look at what's possible. He first resisted like everybody does. See, doctors don't like giving power to the patient. The doctor is always the hero in their mind. But then he tested it in the real world, and 4 weeks later, he called me back. 8,100 followers, his videos were getting 2,300 likes on an average now. Some videos even hit 12,000 likes. He didn't change anything except the opening and the pronoun, and this was the result. Why? Because Obama figured out something most modern businesses have not integrated. The audience doesn't come for the expert, the audience comes once they see themselves in the story. The expert only after that has the permission to teach them. Power of strategic silence now. Here's the moment that most people missed. It's the 2008 Grant Park speech. Election night, 3 million people watching him live in Chicago, hundreds of millions on television across America. He has won and now he is here to address the nation. And then he does something that no professional speechwriter would ever advise. He introduces his wife and daughters. He says their names, Michelle, Malia, Sasha, and he pauses. He looks at them and then he doesn't speak for almost 5 full seconds. That's not a mistake. That's designed silence. The pause did three things simultaneously. First, it reminded everyone watching that he's a person, not just a symbol, a man who loves his family. The cynical read is that this can be considered manipulation, but the actual read is that it's honesty that was structured perfectly. Secondly, it gives the audience permission to stop thinking and start feeling. The moment he stops talking, the audience has to fill that space with their own emotions, and what they fill it with is their own projection of what they want that particular moment to mean. Three, and this is the move that nobody talks about, it's a reset button. The speech can now begin again. He has shown you who the man is, he is now going to show you the vision. The pause separates the two act and does it perfectly so. I now teach clinic founders and other founders this. The worst videos I see are constant motion, constant talking, constant camera movements. They're like cable news. They're desperate, and desperate reads as low status. The most powerful videos, the ones that actually convert, that actually make someone want to pick up the phone and talk to your business, have a rhythm. There is talk, there are pauses, there is showing of results, letting the results breathe, and then talking again. Silence is not an empty space, it's the place where the audience joins the story. Now let's talk about the Philadelphia gamble, and this is where it gets even more interesting. Because 2004 and 2008 were the warm-up acts. March 18, 2008, Philadelphia. It was the Constitution Center, and the Jeremiah Wright tapes had just hit the news. Wright was Obama's pastor, and in those tapes, Wright said some inflammatory things. God damn America being the most memorable one that he said. And suddenly everyone on news was asking, is Obama hiding something? Is this even the real Obama? This would be the moment anybody would feel his campaign is done. They will go into a defensive crouch. They will parse words to lawyer statements, distance themselves. But Obama did something much riskier. He gives a 37-minute speech on race in America while the wound was still bleeding. He says, I'm the son of a black man from Kenya and white woman from Kansas. And what he does is that he makes the entire argument about himself, not defensively, but confessionately. Let me read you the exact construction because this is where the craft gets visible. These are not radical ideas. They are ideas rooted in the very fabric of America. These are ideas that I believe in, but I also know that these are not ideas that can be imposed from top down. They have to be worked for, they have to be fought for, and by each and every one of us. And this is where the movement for a far more united America is all about. Do you see what he just did? He takes the accusation that you're hiding something and he flips the narrative. He says, here's what I actually am. Here's my actual inheritance, the good parts and the parts that I don't like to accept. And here is what this inheritance tells me about America. And here's what that means about how America will be moving forward. It's a confession structured as an argument. It's vulnerability weaponized. And here's the thing nobody taught me until I started studying Obama. Vulnerability is only powerful if the person being vulnerable is clearly has the power not to be vulnerable. If you're cornered, the confession is desperation. But if you're winning and you confess anyway, that's different. That's self-implication. That's saying I understand this criticism could destroy me and I'm going to engage in it anyway because it matters more than my survival. That's the line. That's the move. He said, I'm going to put myself in the same struggle as everyone else. I'm not above it, I'm in it, and we are in it together. But the true masterclass in controlled vulnerability comes later. June 25, 2015. Charleston, South Carolina. A state senator and pastor had just been killed in a mass shooting. Obama is invited to deliver the eulogy, and he did something that no modern politician has ever done in state funeral setting. He sings. He sings Amazing Grace. The room is devastated. Everyone is crying. And then Obama steps to the microphone and he doesn't explain the storm. He doesn't contextualize it. He just starts singing it. The camera pulls back and you see the choir joining him. And he's not performing, he's praying. Most people think that moment is about religion. It's not. It's about status. Here's what happened. For 30 minutes, Obama had been the president, the authority figure, the person with answers, and the audience has been in the receiver position, listening, grieving, but also waiting for him to tell what to do next. Then he sang, and in that moment, he became one of them again. He was no longer the president, the person with the answers. He was the person in the suffering. And because he visibly moved to that position, because he made himself small in front of everyone else, he actually became larger. And that's not a speech technique. That's what we call a status shift. And it only works if you have status to begin with. A nobody singing Amazing Grace at a funeral looks like they're trying too hard, but a president singing it looks like he understands something about humanity that transcends his position. I've been teaching this to a founder and entrepreneur who just sold a clinic for 9 figures. It was new money, it was certain prominence, and she was now in a position where everyone in the industry wants her advice. And I told her, your power now is not to demonstrate what you know. It's to show what you still are figuring out. Be a person who is in mid of confusion, not strategic confusion, but about confusion on hard things in life. And that's what makes people trust you. She thought I was insane, but then she tried it. She posted about a hiring decision. She wasn't very sure about it. She posted about a partnership she walked away from, about failure that taught her something, and the response was something unexpected. People now didn't just follow her for her success, they followed her because she was now believable and real. Now, most people analyze Obama by looking at the vision, the message, but they miss where the actual power is. The actual power is in the structures a paragraph. He'll do this thing where he'll stack 3 long sentences, dense with information, full of clauses, and then he'll hit you with a short one. Maybe 4 words, 5 words, and it acts like a drum beat. Look at the rhythm. Long, 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 short. It's not an accident. It's a metronome. And it does something to the human nervous system. It creates a pattern and then breaks it. Creates another pattern and breaks it. Your bodies get synced to that rhythm, and then he hits that short sentence. Your body is primed for impact. I taught this to an entrepreneur who was doing sales calls themselves. He was losing leads because he was too reasonable. Everything was balanced, logical, there was no rhythm. So I told him to study Obama's sentence structure. Don't make every sentence the same way. Give the big information a long sentence. Give the emotional hit a shorter one. He started doing it. He started using smaller sentences. And the last sentence hits different because it's short, because the rhythm made the person ready for it. That's not manipulation, that's designing communication. And most people confuse the two. Now, here's what I think is actually Obama's biggest move. And it's the thing that makes him different from just being another good speaker. Most political communication works this way. Here is the big vision. Now, let me give you an example that proves it. Obama does the opposite. He starts with something very specific, a person, a moment, a tiny story nobody asked for, and then is the graph. He extracts the universal principle from that specific moment in front of you. From the 2004 speech, he said, my father was from Kenya, my mother was from Kansas. My parents shared not just a home, but a belief in the possibilities of this nation. And that is not a biography, that is a compression of his argument into a story. He is telling you, my existence is proof that your vision of America is possible. And I'm not a metaphor, I am evidence. And because he starts with the specific before you knew what he was arguing for, when he pulls out the universal, it feels like discovery and not persuasion. This is the mistake everyone makes with storytelling. They use stories as decoration. They put the argument first and the story second. Here's what I believe, and here's a story that proves it, but Obama reverses it. Here is what happened to me, and here is what it means about all of us. And this actually works. So here's what I learned from studying his craft obsessively. The reason Obama's speeches are working, because it's not because he's a better person than other politicians. It's because he studied something most people overlook: the actual mechanics of how humans change their minds, how they move from skeptical to believing, how they move from watching to participating. And the mechanics are not new, they're not revolutionary, they're old. They're used by Lincoln, they're used by King, they're used by oral traditions. But Obama studied them like a craftsman studies his trade, not as inspiration, but as construction. The people I see winning in their fields, the founders with real influence, the doctors that people actually want to work with, the entrepreneurs that can close deals, they are not doing this with better product. They are doing it with better communication. And what makes the communication work is that they're just not trying to pursue it, and they try to reveal. They stop centering themselves and start centering what's possible when they're not alone. And that's the thing Obama figured out, and that's the thing everyone else is still trying to copy. The speeches will still be taught, but the real lesson is being missed. It was never about hope, it was about architecture. The architecture of a story is so constructive that you can't hear it without feeling like the protagonist. And that is not politics, that is pure craft. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this video. And if you like this, share this with someone who might find this useful. If you like the content, subscribe to the channel, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.